The sleek starship Endeavour glided silently through the inky void of space, its gleaming hull reflecting the distant starlight. Inside, Ambassador Sarah Chen stood before a full-length mirror, adjusting her crisp navy uniform for what felt like the 100th time. Her heart raced with a mixture of excitement and trepidation as she prepared for humanity's first official contact with the Zarkonian Empire. Ambassador, we're approaching the outer defense perimeter of Zarkon Prime. Captain Rodriguez's voice crackled over the intercom. You might want to get to the bridge. Sarah took a deep breath, steeling herself for the momentous occasion ahead. On my way, Captain. As she strode through the corridors of the Endeavour, Sarah couldn't help but marvel at how far humanity had come. Just 50 years ago, faster-than-light travel had been a distant dream. Now, here they were, about to make history as the first humans to set foot on an alien world. The bridge buzzed with nervous energy as Sarah entered. Through the massive viewscreen, she caught her first glimpse of Zarkon Prime, a swirling orb of deep purples and vibrant greens, unlike any planet she had ever seen. Incoming transmission from Zarkonian High Command, Lieutenant Park announced, her fingers dancing over the holographic controls. Captain Rodriguez nodded to Sarah. This is your show, Ambassador. Sarah squared her shoulders and stepped forward. Patch it through. The view screen flickered, revealing a stern-faced alien with iridescent scales and piercing yellow eyes. High Commander Vexthor of the Zarkonian Empire regarded the humans with barely concealed disdain. Greetings, creatures of Earth. Vexthor's translator conveyed his guttural speech. You have been granted permission to land at our capital spaceport. Be warned, any deviation from your assigned flight path will be met with immediate destruction. Sarah bowed slightly, careful to maintain eye contact as their cultural briefings had stressed. We are honored by your hospitality, High Commander. The United Earth Alliance comes in peace, seeking friendship and mutual understanding between our peoples. Vexthor's scaled nostrils flared. We shall see. Your kind has a reputation for being unpredictable. Do not test our patience. The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving an uneasy silence on the bridge. Well, Captain Rodriguez said with forced cheer, that went better than expected. At least they didn't shoot us on sight. Sarah managed a weak smile. Let's hope that's a sign of progress. As the Endeavour began its descent through Zarkon Prime's atmosphere, Sarah retreated to her quarters for a final moment of reflection. She activated a small hologram projector, and the smiling faces of her husband and young daughter sprang to life. I miss you both so much, Sarah whispered, her fingers tracing the ethereal outlines of her family. I promise I'll make you proud. I'll make Earth proud. A gentle chime signaled that it was time. Sarah deactivated the hologram and made her way to the airlock where her small diplomatic team awaited. As the massive doors began to open, revealing the alien landscape beyond, Sarah felt the weight of history on her shoulders. The air of Zarkon Prime hit them like a wall, thick, humid, and tinged with unfamiliar scents. Sarah's team activated their personal atmosphere regulators, a precaution against potential pathogens. Before them stretched a vast landing platform, surrounded by towering structures that seemed to defy gravity, their spires twisting impossibly into the violet sky. A delegation of Zarkonians approached, their scaled bodies adorned with intricate markings that Sarah assumed denoted rank. At their head strode a figure she recognized from briefing files, Senior Diplomat Zalora, known for her slightly more moderate views on interspecies relations. Welcome to Zarkon Prime, Ambassador Chen, Zalora's translator conveyed, her tone neutral. I trust your journey was tolerable. Sarah inclined her head respectfully. It was fascinating, Diplomat Zalora. We are grateful for the opportunity to experience the wonders of your world firsthand. As they spoke, Sarah noticed the other Zarkonians eyeing her team with a mixture of curiosity and revulsion. Some even took a step back, as if afraid of contamination. It was clear that breaking through centuries of isolationist propaganda would be no easy task. Zara gestured toward a sleek, hovering vehicle. Come, the High Council awaits your presentation. They are eager to understand why we should consider aligning ourselves with such a young and untested species. As they boarded the transport, Sarah caught snippets of conversation from the Zarkonian guards. Can you believe how soft and weak they look? I heard they're riddled with diseases. We should have never let them land. The council is foolish to even consider an alliance. Humans will bring nothing but chaos to our ordered society. Sarah's universal translator picked up every word, but she maintained a diplomatic poker face. She had expected prejudice, but the depth of the Zarkonians' disdain was disheartening. Still, she reminded herself this was why she was here, to bridge the gap of understanding between their cultures. The journey to the High Council chambers was a blur of alien architecture and curious stares from Zarkonian citizens. Sarah used the time to center herself, reviewing key points of her presentation in her mind. Everything, the future of human-Zarkonian relations, potential technological exchanges, perhaps even the long-term survival of Earth, hinged on the next few hours. As they approached the imposing edifice of the High Council building, Sarah's communication device buzzed discreetly. It was a message from Captain Rodriguez. Unexpected solar flare activity detected. Could disrupt communications and tech. Proceed with caution. Sarah's heart sank, as if this mission wasn't challenging enough already. She took a deep breath, straightening her posture as the transport came to a stop. Whatever happened next, she would face it with the indomitable spirit that had carried humanity to the stars. The doors to the High Council chamber swung open, revealing a circular room filled with stern-faced Zarkonian leaders. At the center stood High Commander Vexthor, his yellow eyes boring into Sarah as she stepped forward. Honorable members of the High Council, Sarah began, her voice steady despite the tension in the air. I stand before you today not just as a representative of Earth, but as an emissary of hope for a brighter, unified future for both our peoples. As Sarah launched into her carefully prepared speech, she noticed a flicker of something unexpected in the eyes of some council members, a glimmer of genuine interest, perhaps even grudging respect. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Little did Sarah know that her true test, and humanity's chance to prove its worth to the skeptical Zarkonians, was about to begin in a way none of them could have anticipated. Cultural clash. Ambassador Sarah Chen's voice echoed through the High Council chamber, her words painting a vision of cooperation and mutual benefit between humans and Zarkonians. As she spoke, she carefully gauged the reactions of the alien leaders before her. Some remained impassive, their scaled features betraying no emotion. Others shifted uncomfortably, clearly struggling with the idea of alliance with a species they had long considered inferior. High Commander Vexthor's penetrating gaze never left Sarah as she concluded her presentation. Your words are intriguing, Ambassador, he said, his translator barely masking the skepticism in his tone. But words alone are not enough. The Zarkonian Empire has thrived for millennia through strength and self-reliance. Why should we risk contamination by your kind? Sarah had anticipated this question. Respectfully, High Commander, isolation in an ever-expanding universe is a luxury no species can afford indefinitely. Humanity has much to offer, our adaptability, our innovative spirit, our diverse perspectives. In return, we hope to learn from your rich history and advanced technologies. Together, we could achieve greatness beyond anything our peoples could accomplish alone. A murmur rippled through the council. Sarah detected a mix of intrigue and indignation in their reactions. Before Vexthor could respond, however, a tremor shook the chamber. Lights flickered, and the holographic displays that had been showcasing Earth's achievements sputtered and died. Solar flare interference, Sarah muttered, remembering Captain Rodriguez's warning. Vexthor's eyes narrowed. What trickery is this, human? Are you attempting to sabotage our systems? Not at all, High Commander, Sarah replied calmly, even as her mind raced to salvage the situation. It appears a solar flare from your star is causing electromagnetic disruptions. If you'll allow me, I believe I can help stabilize your systems." Skeptical glances were exchanged among the council members, but Vexthar gave a curt nod. Sarah approached the central control panel, her fingers dancing over the alien interface. Years of studying xenotechnology were about to be put to the test. "Fascinating," she murmured. "Your systems are more vulnerable to these disruptions than I would have expected. A simple recalibration of your shielding frequencies should." With a few deft adjustments, the lights stabilized and the holographic displays flickered back to life. The Zarkonians looked on with a mixture of surprise and grudging admiration. "Impressive," Zalra, the senior diplomat, admitted. "Perhaps there is more to your species than we initially believed." Vexthor, however, remained unconvinced. "A parlor trick, nothing more. The real test of any species is not in their technology, but in their character. You will remain on Zarkon Prime for 1 lunar cycle. During this time, you will be evaluated." Sarah bowed her head in acceptance. "We welcome the opportunity to demonstrate our sincerity and value, High Commander." As the council session adjourned, Sarah and her team were escorted to their assigned quarters, a stark utilitarian facility on the outskirts of the capital city. It was clear from the armed guards and security measures that they were as much prisoners as they were guests. Over the next few days, Sarah worked tirelessly to bridge the cultural gap. She participated in traditional Zarkonian rituals, studied their complex social hierarchies, and even attempted to learn the basics of their guttural language. Her team, following her lead, threw themselves into understanding Zarkonian culture with enthusiasm. It was during a tour of a Zarkonian scientific facility that Sarah's perseverance began to pay off. Dr. Lixara, a prominent xenobiologist, was explaining their latest breakthrough in genetic engineering. "This sequence here," Lizara pointed to a holographic DNA strand, "allows our crops to thrive in even the harshest environments." Sarah studied the display intently. "Fascinating. Have you considered applying a similar principle to medical nanobots? The adaptive properties could revolutionize treatments for a wide range of diseases." Lizara's eyes widened. That is an intriguing concept, one we had not considered." For the next several hours, Sarah and Lizara engaged in a lively scientific discussion, exchanging ideas and challenging each other's assumptions. By the end, even the stoic Zarkonian guards seemed captivated by the intellectual discourse. Word of Sarah's insights spread quickly through the scientific community. Soon, she found herself invited to lectures and symposiums, her unique human perspective offering fresh angles on age-old Zarkonian problems. Not everyone was pleased with this development, however. High Commander Vexthol watched the growing rapport between Sarah and certain segments of Zarkonian society with mounting concern. "This human is becoming too influential," he growled to his advisors. "We must remind her, and our people, of humanity's true nature." The opportunity Vexthor had been waiting for arrived unexpectedly during a public ceremony honoring Zarkonian war heroes. Sarah and her team had been invited as observers, a sign of their gradually improving status. As the ceremony reached its climax, a commotion erupted in the crowd. A young Zarkonian, eyes wild with fear, broke through the security cordon. In his clawed hand, he clutched a primitive but deadly explosive device. "Death to the Empire," the youth shouted, his finger hovering over the detonator. Time seemed to slow. The guards, caught off guard, reached for their weapons. The crowd began to panic, and Sarah, acting on pure instinct, launched herself towards the would-be attacker. With a flying tackle that would have made an Earth rugby player proud, Sarah brought the young Zarkonian to the ground. They grappled briefly, Sarah's combat training kicking in as she fought to subdue him without causing harm. "It's okay," she said soothingly, even as she pinned his arms. "You don't have to do this. Whatever's wrong, we can fix it together." The sincerity in her voice seemed to penetrate the youth's desperation. His grip on the detonator loosened, and Sarah carefully removed it from his hand. As the guards swarmed in to take control of the situation, Sarah found herself face to face with a stunned High Commander Vexthor. You saved us," Vexthor said, his usual composure shaken. "At great risk to yourself. Why?" Sarah met his gaze steadily. Because it was the right thing to do. Because every life, Zarkonian or human, has value. This is who we are, High Commander. Not just me, but humanity as a whole. We may not be perfect, but we strive to be better, to help others, to find peaceful solutions even in the face of violence. A hush fell over the crowd as Vexthor considered her words. For the first time since her arrival on Zarkon Prime, Sarah saw genuine respect in the High Commander's eyes. "Perhaps," Vexthor said slowly, "we have been too hasty in our judgment of your species. Your actions today have given us much to reconsider." As Sarah was led away for a medical examination, she caught snippets of conversation from the Zarkonian civilians around her. Gone was the earlier disdain and fear. Instead, she heard words of admiration, curiosity, and even gratitude. It wasn't universal acceptance. Centuries of isolationist ideology couldn't be overturned in a matter of days. But it was a start, a crack in the wall of prejudice that had long separated their species. That evening, as Sarah sat in her quarters reflecting on the day's events, she received an unexpected visitor. Zolra, the senior diplomat, entered with an air of newfound respect. "Ambassador Chen," Zalra began, her usual formalities softened. We owe you a debt of gratitude. Your actions today have opened many eyes, including my own. I believe it is time we began discussing the possibility of a true alliance between our peoples." Sarah smiled, feeling a surge of hope for the future. "I would be honored, Diplomat Zalra. Shall we begin?" As the two diplomats settled in for what promised to be a long and fruitful discussion, neither was aware of the looming crisis that would soon test a fledgling trust between their species, a crisis that would demand the very best of both humans and Zarkonians if they hoped to survive. Looming crisis. The days following the thwarted attacks saw a marked shift in the atmosphere on Zarkon Prime. Ambassador Sarah Chen and her team found themselves the subject of intense curiosity rather than suspicion. Zarkonian scientists eagerly sought out human perspectives on various technological and social challenges, while cultural exchange programs began to take shape. Sarah sat in a newly allocated office within the diplomatic quarter, poring over the latest draft of a proposed alliance treaty. The document represented weeks of careful negotiation, a delicate balance of human and Zarkonian interests. As she made final annotations, a priority communication alert flashed on her holographic display. "Ambassador Chen," Captain Rodriguez's face appeared, his expression grim. "We've detected some unusual activity in Zarkon Prime's star system. You might want to bring this to the attention of the Zarkonian authorities." Sarah's brow furrowed. "What kind of activity, Captain?" "Massive gravitational anomalies, Ambassador. Unlike anything we've ever seen. Our science team is still analyzing the data, but preliminary results suggest, well, it's not good." Before Sarah could probe further, an urgent knock at her door interrupted them. Senior diplomat Zalra entered, her usual composure replaced by visible distress. "Ambassador Chen, your presence is required immediately in the High Council chamber. A matter of utmost urgency has arisen." Sarah nodded, quickly ending her call with a promise to follow up with Captain Rodriguez later. As they hurried through the winding corridors of the government complex, Sarah noticed an undercurrent of tension among the Zarkonians they passed. "Zalra," Sarah ventured, "does this have anything to do with anomalies in your star system?" The Zarkonian diplomat's steps faltered for a moment. You know about that? How?" "Our ships detected unusual gravitational readings. We were about to bring it to your attention." Zolra's expression was a mix of surprise and grudging admiration. "Your sensor technology must be more advanced than we realized." "Yes, Ambassador, that is precisely why you've been summoned." They entered the High Council chamber to find it in a state of barely controlled chaos. Holographic displays flickered with complex astronomical data, while Zarkonian scientists argued heatedly amongst themselves. High Commander Vexthor stood at the center, his usual authoritative demeanor strained. "Ah, the human arrives," Vexthor announced, silencing the room. "Perhaps now we can get some answers." Sarah approached cautiously, aware of the tension in the air. "High Commander, I assure you we had no prior knowledge of these anomalies. We only just detected them ourselves." Vexthor's eyes narrowed. "And yet your sensors apparently discovered in hours what our scientists have been tracking for days. Convenient, isn't it?" Before Sarah could respond, an elderly Zarkonian stepped forward. His scales were faded with age, but his eyes burned with intelligence. "High Commander, if I may. I am Chief Scientist Krelevor. I believe the humans speak the truth, and more importantly, their unique perspective may be crucial in understanding the threat we face." Vexthor grudgingly nodded for Krelevor to continue. The scientist activated a central holographic display showing a three-dimensional model of the Zarkon star system. 3 days ago, our long-range sensors detected a gravitational anomaly at the edge of our system, Krelevor explained. At first, we dismissed it as a sensor malfunction, but the anomaly has grown exponentially. The hologram zoomed in on a region of space that seemed to twist and warp unnaturally. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine as she recognized the implications. "A space-time rupture," she breathed. Krelevor nodded solemnly. "Precisely, Ambassador. A tear in the very fabric of space-time, and it's expanding at an alarming rate. Our calculations suggest that within 2 standard weeks, it will engulf our entire planet." The room erupted in a cacophony of voices, fear and anger palpable in the air. Sarah's mind raced, recalling similar phenomena encountered in humanity's early experiments with faster-than-light travel. "Have you attempted to seal the rupture?" she asked, raising her voice above the din. Krelevor shook his head. "We've tried every method at our disposal. Energy beams, graviton pulses, even sacrificing some of our oldest ships in an attempt to collapse it. Nothing has worked." Sarah's eyes lit up with a sudden idea. "What about a controlled quantum singularity? If we could generate a localized black hole at the edge of the rupture, its gravitational pull might be enough to force the tear closed." The Zarkonian scientists exchanged looks of surprise and intrigue. Krelevor stroked his scaled chin thoughtfully. "An interesting proposal, Ambassador, but the energy requirements for such an endeavor would be astronomical, not to mention the precision required to prevent the singularity from growing out of control. Earth has been experimenting with similar technology for our next generation of starships," Sarah explained. "If we combine our research with Zarkonian expertise in gravitational manipulation, we might have a chance." High Commander Vexthor, who had been listening intently, stepped forward. "And why should we trust you with such sensitive information, human? For all we know, your people could have caused this catastrophe in the first place." Sarah met his gaze unflinchingly. "High Commander, I understand your suspicion, but right now, our peoples face a common threat. This rupture won't stop at Zarkon Prime. If left unchecked, it could spread to neighboring systems, perhaps even reaching Earth one day. We need each other if we're going to survive this." A tense silence fell over the chamber as Vexthor considered her words. Finally, he turned to Krelevor. "Chief Scientist, what is your assessment?" Krelevor's aged features were grave. "High Commander, while I cannot speak to the humans' true intentions, I can say this. Their proposal represents our best, perhaps our only, chance of averting this crisis. The Ambassador is correct. We cannot face this threat alone." Vexthor's internal struggle was visible on his face. Centuries of isolationist doctrine warred against the urgent need for survival. At last, he seemed to come to a decision. "Very well," he growled. "Ambassador Chen, you and your team will work with our scientists to develop this quantum singularity device. But know this, If we detect even a hint of deception or sabotage, the consequences will be severe. Sarah bowed her head respectfully. Understood, High Commander. We won't let you down. As the chamber buzzed with renewed activity, scientists from both species already beginning to collaborate, Sarah felt the weight of two civilizations on her shoulders. The road ahead would be fraught with challenges, not just technological but cultural as well. Trust, so recently and tenuously established, would be pushed to its limits. She caught Zalara's eye across the room, and the Zarkonian diplomat offered a small nod of encouragement. It wasn't much, but it was enough. Humanity had been given a chance to prove its worth, to demonstrate that cooperation could triumph over conflict. Sarah took a deep breath, steeling herself for the monumental task ahead. All right, she announced to the assembled teams. Let's save a planet. As they delved into the complexities of quantum mechanics and gravitational theory, none of them could have predicted the series of events that would unfold, events that would test the limits of both human ingenuity and Zarkonian resolve, forging an alliance in the crucible of cosmic peril. Unexpected alliance. The cavernous research facility buzzed with a frenetic energy as human and Zarkonian scientists worked side by side, racing against time to develop the quantum singularity device. Holographic displays flickered with complex equations and simulations, while prototype components were assembled and tested with meticulous care. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood at the heart of this organized chaos, coordinating efforts between the two species. Despite the progress they'd made, tensions remained high. Trust, so recently established, was a fragile thing. No. Dr. Erica Sung, Earth's leading expert in quantum mechanics, exclaimed in frustration. She gestured at a holographic simulation of the space-time rupture. The gravitational flux is still too unstable. If we initiate the singularity with these parameters, we risk accelerating the rupture instead of closing it. Her Zarkonian counterpart, scientist Zexler, bristled at the criticism. Our calculations are precise, human. Perhaps if your species hadn't rushed to share unproven theories, we wouldn't be in this predicament. Sarah intervened before the argument could escalate. Dr. Sung, scientist Zexler, please, we're all working towards the same goal here. Instead of assigning blame, let's focus on solutions. What if we combined the stability of Zarkonian graviton manipulation with Earth's quantum entanglement theories? The two scientists exchanged glances, their professional pride warring with the urgency of their task. Finally, Zexler nodded grudgingly. A reasonable suggestion, Ambassador. We will explore this avenue. As the scientists returned to their work with renewed focus, Sarah felt a presence at her side. It was Zalra, the senior diplomat, her expression a mixture of admiration and concern. You handle them well, Ambassador, Zalra observed. But I fear not everyone shares your vision of cooperation. There are elements within our society who view this crisis as proof that we should have maintained our isolation. Sarah sighed, running a hand through her disheveled hair. We have similar factions on Earth, Zalra. Fear of the unknown is a universal constant, it seems. All we can do is prove them wrong by succeeding. Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent call from the Endeavour. Captain Rodriguez's holographic form appeared before them, his face grim. Ambassador, we've got a problem. Long-range scans have detected multiple unidentified vessels entering the system. They're on an intercept course with Zarkon Prime. Sarah's blood ran cold. Pirates, scavengers. Rodriguez shook his head. Worse, based on their energy signatures, we believe they're Krelthar warships. Zalra hissed in alarm. The Krelthar Dominion? Impossible. They haven't been seen in this sector for centuries. Sarah turned to the Zarkonian diplomat, her expression grave. I take it these Krelthar aren't friendly. They are a warrior race, Zalra explained, her voice tight with worry. Conquerors who seek to subjugate lesser species. Our ancestors drove them from this region of space long ago, but it seems they've returned, no doubt drawn by the energy emissions from the space-time rupture. Sarah's mind raced, analyzing this new threat. How long until they reach Zarkon Prime? At their current speed, less than 48 hours, Rodriguez reported. Alert High Command immediately, Sarah instructed Zalora. We need to prepare for both diplomatic engagement and potential conflict. As Zalora hurried off to inform Vexthor, Sarah turned back to the assembled scientists. I hate to add to your workload, but we need to accelerate our timeline. The fate of Zarkon Prime now depends not just on closing a rupture, but on defending against an invasion. The next few hours were a blur of activity. While the research team redoubled their efforts on the quantum singularity device, Sarah found herself in a series of tense strategy meetings with Zarkonian military leaders. Our planetary defenses are formidable, General Kravinox, a grizzled veteran of past conflicts, explained, but they were designed to repel asteroids and the occasional pirate raid, not a full-scale invasion force. Sarah studied the holographic display of Zarkon Prime's defense grid. What if we repurpose some of your graviton pulse emitters? Combined with the Endeavour's phase cannons, we might be able to create a layered defense that could slow down the Krelthar fleet. Kravinox's eyes widened in surprise. You would risk your only ship in our defense, human. We're in this together now, General, Sarah replied firmly. Earth's fate is tied to Zarkon Prime's. Besides, I have faith in Captain Rodriguez and his crew. As the military preparations continued, Sarah received an urgent summons from the research facility. She arrived to find Dr. Sung and scientist Zexlor in a state of barely contained excitement. We had a breakthrough, Sung announced, her eyes shining with the fervor of scientific discovery. By combining Zarkonian graviton manipulation with our quantum entanglement theories, we've managed to stabilize a singularity simulation. Zexlor nodded, a hint of respect in his voice as he addressed his human counterpart. Dr. Sung's insights were invaluable. We believe we can have a working prototype ready within 36 hours. Sarah felt a glimmer of hope. Excellent work, both of you. But can we deploy it safely with the Krelthar fleet approaching? The scientists exchanged uneasy glances. That complicates matters, Zexlor admitted. The device will need to be positioned precisely at the edge of the rupture. Any interference during the activation process could be catastrophic. So we need to hold off an invasion force long enough to save the planet from a space-time catastrophe, Sarah mused. No pressure, right? Just then, High Commander Vexthor burst into the room, his usually composed demeanor shaken. Ambassador Chen, we've received a transmission from the Krelthar fleet. Their leader, Warlord Zankrix, demands our immediate and unconditional surrender. Sarah's jaw set with determination. Well then, High Commander, I believe it's time we showed the Krelthar and the universe what humans and Zarkonians can accomplish when we work together. As they hurried to the communications center to craft a response to the Krelthar ultimatum, Sarah couldn't help but marvel at the strange turns her diplomatic mission had taken. She had come to Zarkon Prime hoping to forge an alliance. Now, that fledgling partnership was about to be tested in ways no one could have imagined. The next 48 hours would determine not just the fate of two civilizations, but potentially the balance of power in this corner of the galaxy. As Sarah prepared to face the Krelthar warlord in verbal combat, she drew strength from the unlikely bonds that had formed between humans and Zarkonians. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. A united front against the dual threats of cosmic calamity and alien invasion. Turning point. The atmosphere in the Zarkonian High Command Center crackled with tension as Ambassador Sarah Chen faced the holographic visage of Warlord Zankrix. The Krelthar leader's reptilian features twisted into a sneer, his voice a guttural growl, even through the universal translator. Your feeble defenses are no match for the might of the Krelthar Dominion, Zankrix boasted. Surrender now, and perhaps we will be merciful in our rule. Sarah stood tall, her voice steady as she addressed the warlord. Warlord Xancrix, I speak on behalf of both the Zarkonian Empire and the United Earth Alliance. We have no quarrel with the Krelthar, but we will not surrender. I urge you to reconsider your actions. The anomaly threatening this system poses a danger to all of us. Xancrix's laughter was cold and mirthless. You expect us to believe that humans and Zarkonians have formed an alliance. Your desperation is pathetic. No matter, your pitiful union will crumble before our onslaught. As the transmission cut off, Sarah turned to face the assembled Zarkonian leadership. High Commander Vexthor's expression was grim. It seems diplomacy has failed, Ambassador, he said, a hint of resignation in his voice. Sarah's eyes blazed with determination. Diplomacy is just one tool in our arsenal, High Commander. Now it's time to show the Krelthar what our alliance is truly capable of. Over the next few hours, a daring plan took shape. The Endeavour, working in concert with Zarkonian defense platforms, would engage the Krelthar fleet, buying time for a small team to deploy the quantum singularity device at the edge of the space-time rupture. As the final preparations were made, Dr. Sung approached Sarah with a concerned expression. Ambassador, there's something you need to know about the device. The gravitational forces at the rupture's edge are more intense than we anticipated. Whoever pilots the deployment vessel, well, their chances of survival are slim. Sarah absorbed this information, her mind already racing through the implications. I understand, Doctor. I'll pilot the vessel myself. A chorus of protests erupted from both humans and Zarkonians alike. Vexthor stepped forward, his usual hostility replaced by grudging respect. Ambassador, surely one of our pilots. With all due respect, High Commander, Sarah interrupted. This mission requires someone who understands both the scientific and diplomatic aspects of our situation. I'm the best candidate we have. Before further arguments could be made, alarms blared throughout the command center. The Krelthar fleet had begun its advance. It's time, Sarah announced. Let's give them a welcome they won't forget. As Sarah made her way to the hangar where the deployment vessel waited, she was joined by an unexpected companion. Zolra, the Zarkonian diplomat, fell into step beside her. I'm coming with you, Zalra stated, her tone brooking no argument. If we're to prove the strength of our alliance, it should be to the end. Sarah nodded, a small smile playing at her lips. I wouldn't have it any other way. The space above Zaracon Prime erupted into chaos as the battle began. The Endeavour, its human crew working in perfect synchronization with Zarkonian gunners, danced through the stars, its advanced weaponry tearing through Krelthar shields. On the planet's surface, repurposed graviton emitters sent waves of destructive energy hurtling towards the invaders. Amidst the furious exchange of fire, a small, nondescript vessel slipped away from the planet, carrying Sarah, Zalra, and the fate of 2 civilizations in its hold. As they approached the swirling maelstrom of the space-time rupture, Sarah's hands flew over the controls, making minute adjustments to their course. Zolra monitored the quantum singularity device, her voice tense as she called out readings. We're entering the gravitational field now, Sarah announced, her voice strained as the ship began to shudder violently. Zalra, begin the activation sequence. The Zarkonian diplomat's clawed fingers danced across the device's interface. A low hum filled the cabin, building in intensity as the singularity began to form. Suddenly, a proximity alarm blared. A Krelthar battlecruiser, noticing their approach, had broken off from the main battle to intercept them. We'll never outrun them, Zalra hissed, fear evident in her voice. Sarah's mind raced, processing variables and potential outcomes in a flash of inspiration. We don't need to outrun them. We just need to outthink them. With a series of daring maneuvers, Sarah piloted their vessel on a collision course with the Krelthar ship. At the last possible moment, she fired their maneuvering thrusters, using the battlecruiser's own mass to slingshot them towards the rupture's edge. The Krelthar ship, caught in the intense gravitational field, spiraled helplessly towards the rupture. its hull crumpled like paper as it vanished into the swirling vortex. "Now, Zalra," Sarah shouted, "activate the device." With a final keystroke, Zalra unleashed the power of the quantum singularity. A blinding light filled the cockpit as a miniature black hole sprang into existence just outside their ship. The effect was immediate and awe-inspiring. The fabric of space-time itself seemed to stretch and contort, the rupture slowly but surely beginning to close. But their victory came at a cost. Their small vessel, battered by gravitational forces beyond its design tolerances, was being inexorably pulled towards the singularity. "The engine's dead," Sarah reported, fighting with unresponsive controls. "We're caught in the gravitational pull." Zalra met Sarah's gaze, a look of understanding passing between them. In that moment, species differences faded away, leaving only a shared respect and the knowledge of what their sacrifice would mean. "It has been an honor, Ambassador," Zalra said softly. "The honor was mine, my friend," Sarah replied. As their ship edged closer to oblivion, a sudden jolt rocked the cabin. A tractor beam, more powerful than any they had ever encountered, locked onto their vessel. "This is Captain Rodriguez of the Endeavour," a familiar voice crackled over their comm system. "Hang tight, Ambassador. We're bringing you home." Through the viewscreen, Sarah and Zalra watched in amazement as the Endeavour, its hull glowing with the combined power of human and Zarkonian technology, fought against the singularity's pull. Inch by painstaking inch, their small craft was dragged away from the event horizon. As they cleared the gravitational field, Sarah let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. The space-time rupture, now a fraction of its former size, collapsed in on itself with a final silent flash. The quantum singularity, its work done, winked out of existence. As the Endeavour tracted them back towards Zarkon Prime, Sarah and Zalra watched the aftermath of the battle unfold. The remaining Krelthar ships, their formation shattered and their leader lost to the rupture, began a hasty retreat. Sarah leaned back in her chair, exhaustion and elation warring within her. "We did it," she murmured. "We actually did it." Zalra nodded, a rare smile gracing her alien features. "Indeed, Ambassador. It seems the universe has not seen the last of our alliance." As they approached the cheering fleet of combined human and Zarkonian ships, Sarah knew that this was more than just a victory over cosmic forces and alien invaders. It was the dawn of a new era, one where the strengths of two vastly different species had combined to achieve the impossible. The true challenge, she realized, was just beginning. Building a lasting peace would require just as much courage, innovation, and trust as closing the rupture. But looking at Zalra, seeing the newfound respect and camaraderie in the Zarkonians' eyes, Sarah knew they were up to the task. Together, they had faced the void and emerged stronger. Whatever the future held, humans and Zarkonians would face it united. New horizons. The Grand Hall of the Zarkonian High Council, once a bastion of isolation and suspicion, now bustled with an unprecedented mix of scaled Zarkonians and humans in crisp uniforms. 6 months had passed since the closure of the space-time rupture and the defeat of the Krelthar invasion force. Today marked the official signing of the Zarkon Accords, a comprehensive treaty of alliance and cooperation between Earth and Zarkon Prime. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood at the center of it all, her diplomatic uniform adorned with both human and Zarkonian symbols of honor. As she prepared to address the assembled dignitaries, she caught the eye of Zalra, now appointed as the Zarkonian ambassador to Earth. The two shared a knowing smile, remembering the harrowing journey that had brought them to this moment. Distinguished representatives of Earth and Zarkon Prime, Sarah began, her voice carrying easily through the hushed chamber. "Today, we stand at the threshold of a new era. An era born not from fear or mistrust, but from shared adversity and triumph." She gestured to the holographic display behind her, showing images of human and Zarkonian scientists working side by side, of joint military exercises, and of cultural exchange programs already in full swing. In the face of cosmic peril and alien aggression, we discovered a truth that transcends the boundaries of our different biologies and cultures, that together we are stronger than we could ever be apart. High Commander Vexthor, his demeanor softened by months of collaboration, stepped forward to stand beside Sarah. The Zarkonian people have long prided themselves on self-reliance, he admitted, his gravelly voice tinged with humility. But Ambassador Chen and her team have shown us the power of true partnership. Today, we extend not just our hands, but our hearts in alliance. As Sarah and Vexthor signed the accords, a thunderous applause filled the chamber. It was a moment that would be remembered in the histories of both worlds for generations to come. In the months that followed, the impacts of the human-Zarkonian alliance rippled across both societies. Scientific collaboration, the Quantum Singularity Project had been just the beginning. Now, joint research teams tackled everything from renewable energy to faster-than-light travel. The combination of Zarkonian precision and human innovation led to breakthroughs at an unprecedented pace. Cultural exchange. Universities on both planets established exchange programs, eager students immersing themselves in alien cultures. Art exhibitions showcased the blending of human and Zarkonian aesthetics, while culinary festivals introduced Earth's diverse cuisines to Zarkonian palates, with some necessary adaptations. Diplomatic outreach. With the strength of their new alliance, Earth and Zarkon Prime began reaching out to other spacefaring civilizations. The tale of their cooperation in the face of the space-time rupture became a powerful tool in fostering interstellar goodwill. Military cooperation. The combined fleet that had repelled the Krelthar became the core of a new joint defense force. Human adaptability complemented Zarkonian discipline, creating a formidable peacekeeping presence in the sector. Economic integration. Trade routes bustled with activity as the two worlds shared resources and technologies. New industries sprang up, dedicated to developing products that could serve both human and Zarkonian needs. Environmental initiatives. Zarkonian expertise in atmospheric management was applied to Earth's climate challenges, while human experience in preserving biodiversity helped protect Zarkon Prime's unique ecosystems. 1 year to the day after the closure of the rupture, Sarah found herself back on the Endeavour, this time as part of a joint expedition to explore uncharted regions of space. As she stood on the bridge, watching the stars streak by, Captain Rodriguez approached with a bemused expression. "You know, Ambassador," he said, shaking his head in wonder. "When we first set out for Zarkon Prime, I never imagined we'd end up here. A human Zarkonian crew, venturing into the unknown together." Sarah smiled, thinking of the incredible journey that had led them to this point. The best diplomacy, Captain, often leads us to unexpected places. It's not about erasing our differences, but about finding strength in them. Their conversation was interrupted by an excited call from the science station, where a young Zarkonian ensign worked alongside her human counterpart. "Ambassador, Captain," the Zarkonian called out, her voice thrumming with excitement. "We're detecting unusual energy readings from a nearby star system. It almost looks like another space-time anomaly, but different somehow." Sarah and Rodriguez exchanged glances, a familiar spark of adventure kindling in their eyes. "Well then," Sarah said, straightening her uniform, "I suppose it's time for the human-Zarkonian alliance to face its next great challenge." As the Endeavour altered course to investigate the mysterious phenomenon, Sarah felt a profound sense of optimism. Whatever lay ahead, be it cosmic wonders or unforeseen perils, they would face it as a united front. The alliance forged in crisis had become a beacon of hope, not just for their two species, but for all those they would encounter on their journey through the stars. The story of humanity's first steps into a larger galactic community had only just begun, and if their experience with the Zarkonians was any indication, it promised to be an adventure beyond their wildest dreams. As the Endeavour cruised towards the unknown, Sarah Chen smiled to herself. In the vast tapestry of the cosmos, humans and Zarkonians had woven their threads together, creating a pattern more beautiful and resilient than either could have achieved alone. The future, with all its infinite possibilities, beckoned.